And it's 2 o'clock, so we will be officially kicking this webinar off right now. Hello, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us for Going Local with Local Logic and Sotheby's International Realty Canada. We're going to start this off with a review of the agenda. That way we know what's going on, and then we'll do some introductions. We'll go over Local Logic really quick. We'll go over Sotheby's really quick, just so there's some level setting on why we're talking. Like, why are these folks talking here today? Then we're going to discuss what Sotheby's is focused on, which obviously is this luxury consumer, but they have a name for this consumer. It's different than maybe what you might be used to, and it's really, really interesting perspective on luxury experience and how it's applied to real estate. So we'll understand that. Then we're going to go into how that knowledge and that focus on this consumer set is impacting their experience on the web and their experience around, their agent interactions with those consumers. And finally, we'll talk a little bit about the future vision, just some cool things on how they're applying these lessons to the tactical day-to-day business. And then we'll have some time for questions. Myself, I am Pierre Calzadilla. I've been in real estate tech for about 18 years, started as a broker in New York City, ran e-business, online marketing for an almost 800 agent firm before I joined Trulia. If you don't know Trulia, it's basically Zillow bought us for, I don't know, like $4 billion. And now Zillow really, really well. And Trulia is like, a very great brand still in the US. And I've been training agents and professionals in the space for many, many years. And then we got our crew here from Local Logic. This is the core gang. There's about 20 of us. Local Logic has been around for since 2014. We started as a group of urban planners and data scientists that got together that really, believe that the future of real estate is data and how it's applied, right? So can we take all this great data out there in the world and apply it so that anybody can understand location in a really intimate way? And so we built really cool tools. That's what we do. We understand the web, we understand data. That's Local Logic, and you'll hear more about us later. Sotheby's, we have Joe here. Joe Lopke. That's the right way to pronounce your name, Joe? Is it Lopke?
Pretty close. Lepke.
Lepke. So Joe's been with Sotheby's International Realty Canada for the past 2 years. He has a digital and software marketing background. He's worked for software companies such as ACL, Global Audit and Compliance Company out of Vancouver, as well as Realtor.com and Top Producer. His role at Sotheby's is focused on the digital and technology platforms where they build and integrate new software and systems for agents and for customers. So Joe, welcome to the gang. Welcome to the conversation.
Thank you very much for having me.
Pleasure. And Tahan Martins. Tahan's been with the Sotheby's International Realty Canada team for over 12 years. So I know Tahan is on, looks like he's maybe 20, but he's been there for over 12 years. Really interesting background. Experience with creative agencies, BCIT and Emily Carr University Art and Design. His expertise is to guide the brand as an industry leader. As creative director, he leads the design direction of the company, works closely with the local marketing teams, and really helps maintain the brand. He's a member of the product development team, so he's in an interesting spot, right? It's really cool to see somebody who's design and worried about that and creative, also working with product. And he's responsible for the creative direction for the corporate initiatives, brand compliance, Sotheby'sRealty.ca, the website, PR campaigns, and other national projects. So thank you guys so much for joining us. Before we go into the whole thing, can you guys level set us on Sotheby's? For those who aren't, everybody knows Sotheby's obviously is, started as an auction house, and we know it's a luxury brand. Maybe you can give us a little bit more depth, Tahan and Joe, about Sotheby's.
Yeah, for sure. So that's right. We obviously are related with the auction house, and that luxury component comes from there. But we're actually a lot more than that. We're part of a global network. Currently about over 22,000 agents, 1,000 offices, and importantly in over 70 countries. So we've got quite a wide network, and especially for the luxury consumers, we're going to dig into it. People who own multiple properties in numerous countries, we are well positioned as a company to sort of cater to that client. Last year alone, our brand globally did $112 billion in sales. And us in Canada, we are perhaps the largest luxury real estate brokerage across Canada. And what's unique for us is we are all our offices are corporately owned and operated. So again, that's to us and our brand.
Got it. And Joe, when it comes to today's webinar, right? We're here to talk about tech and marketing. How does why should we be listening to the Sotheby's International Realty team? Like, give me some metrics on the Sotheby's International Realty website, and what you guys are like, how you're positioned to speak to this great topic.
Well, our website attracts over 15 million page views annually, surpassing a lot of other sites in our network. We strive to be technology innovators in the luxury real estate marketing space. With our new technology, but with our new technology, you don't want to lose that personal touch that our agents provide. The new affluent consumer have a very high expectations, and they'll compare you to their best customer experience. So it's really important not to lose that personal touch. Our site and platform is a custom built in-house platform, which gives us tons of freedom for scaling and building and integrating new systems. In the last year alone, we focused a lot on automation, simplifying processes, which allow us to scale from a sales perspective, but also a customer marketing perspective.
That's awesome. And you said something right there, which may be a new term for folks. You said the new affluent, which is actually exactly going to go into this conversation on what you guys are focused on. Can you explain, as we go into this, where did this concept of this new affluent, why are we looking at these folks?
Yeah, so our global brand and us in Canada as well have been doing a bit of research. In Canada, we've been working with the Mastel Group to put a bit of thought into where is our consumer coming from, where is it going. And what we're witnessing is the largest intergenerational transfer of wealth in history. The luxury market is being reshaped by the emergence of this new consumer. Mm-hmm. And it's a massive amount of inheritance, as we'll get into, that's being transferred from one generation to another. And the generations before are sort of, their advice is invest in real estate because they've seen real estate be a good investment for them. And so for us, it's important to position ourselves to that next consumer who we have titled via our research as a new affluent. And there are many factors going into this, but it's interesting. This new consumer is very skeptical of traditional marketing tactics and very dismissive of them. So that's why we're focused on this consumer.
So for the webinar right now, we're going to do in this section, we're going to focus on the person right now. So we're going to dig into who is the new affluent. This is powerful content, folks. So perk up and pay attention, because this is something that I really appreciated the way that this was put together. And the information here I thought was really tactical and impactful, and good on Sotheby's to share this with everybody out there, because I think this is really great, really useful information for any agent on the street, all the way up to the brokerage executives and the portals that are out there. And so why? So we know that there's this huge, transgenerational wealth happening, but why do we care so much? There was a great, phrase that you had shared, which is that they care more about experience, right? Than the actual house, more or less, right?
Absolutely. I mean, to begin with, when we say there's a great transfer of wealth, firstly, we're talking about, they're estimating close to $30 trillion worth of financial assets being passed over the next 30 years. So it's a massive amount of money going to a generation that is firstly growing up in an all digital age, but also is putting a lot more emphasis on experience versus product. So generations before used their wealth perhaps to buy product, buy goods and services, whereas the generation coming up, this new affluent, is more interested in and is already showing that they're spending the money on experiences. That's what's important to them. So how do we as a real estate company cater our marketing and our targeting towards them with that framework?
Right. I mean, yeah, this consumer is completely hooked on, we see it, right? We look on Instagram, we look on TV and what kind of content is being run, HGTV, I mean, you know, the genre of real estate TV has exploded. And obviously there's sites just dedicated to shopping luxury real estate, even furniture, right? Like in the house.
Exactly. Yeah, real estate has become sort of a standalone platform for entertainment. You know, you've obviously touched on HDTV, but you know, with social media, Instagram, people are following accounts, following content that just brings them joy, and it's not necessarily about purchasing it; it's entertainment to them. That's what they're filling their time with.
Yeah, and Joe, so here we go, Joe. So now your job here is to market to these folks, right? So how do you even target, you know, this new affluent consumer? How do you approach, you know, reaching them when they don't want to be sold, right? They don't want to be sold stuff. They want to have a genuine sort of connection, and they want to have an experience. Like that's a real challenge, right? I mean, we're dealing with digital experience. Well, how do you think about this as a real estate brand?
Well, as we mentioned before, it's the first generation to grow up entirely digital. And we can't fight that. We need to be in the same space that they are. So with our digital channels, we measure engagements and success differently. Organic posts through social is a great way of reaching out to them, and it's great to understand that's more of a brand awareness campaign for us. When we look at our different channels like SEM campaigns, much more lead generative and intent-based searches, it's just important for us to understand those different channels will have different interactions, and we measure them, and we measure success differently through those.
Yep. So now let's look at this now as we see that, like how they're spending. Right. So how do these folks look at specifically like luxury and real estate? So because here we have personal goods and then we have experiences. Like, how does this apply now? Right. So now we have this consumer. We know that they like that, you know, they care about experiences. We know that there's a way to target them. How does this break out, and how do you apply this research to Sotheby's?
Yeah, I mean, definitely as a brand, one of the things we had for, I would say 5 years now, the tagline we've kind of internally been using is luxury is not a price point, it's an experience. And it's more than a tagline for us, because what we're seeing is, you know, the new affluent, it isn't about owning that massive mansion, it's about where they want to live and the lifestyle they're looking to live. And that necessarily isn't about buying the biggest place. You know, it might be buying a condo in downtown Toronto. It might be buying a single family home out in the country. It varies so differently because they're looking for a lifestyle and an experience, and a home is just fitting into that. Whereas the generations before, it was different. So, and that, you know, for us as a brand, as an example, it shows in who we are. We're renowned as a luxury real estate company, but over 75 of the properties we represent are sort of under $1 million. So we're seeing that in the transaction data already.
Got it. And so they're acting differently, they're buying differently, they're searching differently, they're engaging differently. How does this continue to impact, like, you know, like this slide is a great slide, right? So we have this like baby boomers and Gen X, which, by the way, I'm really happy to see years on this, so there's no confusion. As a person born 1977, I'm Gen X. You know, my coworkers tease me and call me boomers. That's because I work with a bunch of millennials. But you know, I'm Gen X. And so as we look at this, like, is there a real stark difference between Gen X and millennials? Or like, do you look at them and say, okay, these guys are together? Or do you look at them as a specific vertical? You know, clearly boomers are way different, right? So there's a big, you know, it's like twice the, you know, two-way communication, you know, compared to millennials. So let's, like, you know, like, share with me, how do you see that? Like playing out with some of these?
There are definitely similarities and differences. You know, one of the things that we're all aware of is mobile being very important in today's world. And so between those generations, you know, the percentages, both generations are doing real estate searches via mobile. What's different is the new affluent, like we've titled it, they're not just on mobile. They're a multi-channel, multi-device generation. So, you know, I think many of us can attest to this. You're watching something on TV, but you're also at the same time browsing something on your mobile device. The new affluent in our research that our global brand has done with the Boston Consulting Group, they're also, to our surprise, into print to some degree. So they're in various places consuming data as and where they want. And so we have to think about that. We need to be there wherever they are.
Yeah, that blew my mind. I saw that stat that high-end print is coming back in vogue. So they're not buying, badly designed, old school typical magazines, but they're buying high-end, glossy, differently sized, bigger pieces, which is fascinating. But it really blew my mind. But I also see it, like, right? Like I think about it, like, oh yeah, actually that's true. Like if there's something beautiful that's really interesting and engaging, people will buy that. And it's interesting. So looking at the two-way communication part, how do you foster this with your actual team, like with your agents? Like, how do you foster this two-way communication?
Let's be clear. Phone and email are still king in our industry. A lot of business gets done via that between agents and their clients. But as we're talking about the next generation, they're on their phones, they're on Instagram, they're used to direct messaging, and so we're educating our agents and trying to make build into our technology, as Joe can share, opportunities for them to go beyond phone and email communication. One of our recent releases, what we call Agent ID, it's a product for our agents. We've baked in Facebook Messenger integration. Again, so consumers, browsing a property or browsing the agent's profile.
Uh-oh. Did we lose audio there? Testing. Well, this is, for me, they froze. So just in case, I have some notes here that I'll go over. So they created this product with Facebook Messenger that allows this two-way communication. Oh, there we go. You guys are back?
Yes.
Okay, great. Lost you at the Facebook Messenger two-way integration, and a number of top agents use that to communicate with your clients, right?
Yeah, like we said, it's the new affluent wants to have a conversation, wants to get the data wherever they are, and part of that is conversing with them.
Oops, sorry. So this reminds me, as we talked this week, we did a webinar 2 weeks ago with Realtor.ca, and on that webinar we talked about this concept of a buyer journey. So Realtor.ca obviously covers the whole country, just like you guys, but they cover all price points and they really broad. And what they talked about was just this buyer journey. And now for you guys, you're looking at specifically the new affluent buyer journey, and you're really honing in on the differences that this specific group that you're really targeting works on. And by the way, for those of you who did not see the Realtor.ca one, it's on our site. You can register and watch it. It's really great. It starts the series. And so what I want to discuss now is this new affluent and its effect on your site, right? So here you are, you're already a luxury brand. It's like you guys woke up 3 years ago and said, oh, we're going to be a luxury brand. Like, you've always been a luxury brand. You've already been targeting the high-end consumer, but your high-end consumer changed how they communicate. And they went from acting one way to now all of a sudden acting a different way. How does that affect how you think about design? And let's dig in.
Yeah, for us, like we've been touching on, we a couple of years back, as we met as a team, what do we want to work on? It came clear that we wanted to make sure that people are able to consume the data wherever they are, whenever they want it. And as a brand, as a luxury brand, often you think, oh, we need to create content. But as we quickly dug into, say, our site, it was apparent to us that people come to the site for one thing and one thing alone, which is property. And so we focused our efforts on that. How do we showcase our properties, which we invest a lot of marketing money and dollars into getting great photography, great video. How do we showcase that? Because that's what people are coming for. And so I think over here we're going to go through a couple of items here. One was our property details page, the page that displays the property, and the second, that it was sort of a two-pronged approach: the property details page here, and then search, because people are obviously searching. They don't know what property they want. So how do we help them find what they're looking for? And then when they're there, how do we keep them there and keep them engaged, no matter what device they're on?
And you guys chose, instead of going from search first, then the property page, you guys chose to fix your property pages first, right? So can we talk a little bit about like this page, some of the choices you made in this initial layout, which is not your current layout. You've actually already graduated to a new layout. So let's start with like why this layout, and then what'd you learn, and where did it take you, and then we'll go over the next layout.
For sure, yeah. So this is our old layout here, throwback to the old days. Obviously, images right up front. And then for us, our team is very focused on conversion-led design. So you see that form right there. That's an important part. One of the things we learned actually when we launched this page is we didn't have a form visible. We chose to hide the form, and we did that not just as a hypothesis, oh, we'll just hide the form, see what happens. We actually ran A/B tests using Optimizely to segmented a portion of our users. And the test proved that our hidden form with a call to action constantly visible actually worked. It outperformed our previously old page. However, once we launched, the real world case was completely different from this A/B test we ran. And it became clear to us that sort of, a great design with a hidden form that looks nice isn't actually performing well. And so we took the 2 weeks since launch to change that. But now here we have our new design, and you'll see it, the content, the media is still up there, and that's highly influenced by our knowledge that people come here because they know we have great imagery, great content. But you'll still see those conversion principles here at play.
Yeah, it's great. You're right. So what do you guys call this? You guys have a name for this thing, right?
This is our property details page, and then the form here, which sort of follows you down the page, is new to us. It's been working really well. Again, what we feel is important is the realtor. In the real estate buying journey, the realtor is important to us. And so we made a conscious decision to elevate the agent. Obviously, if you compare the old to the new, you'll see, above the fold, you see the agent's faces. You're able to contact them right away. And research shows that showing faces on there, as an example, helps people engage and want to reach out. So we've made those conscious decisions as we redesign this page on how to focus on that.
That's great. And so, like, what your, I came from this world. What did your agents think about this page? Like, did they freak out at all? Because sometimes when you do changes on listing pages, agents, again, I was at Trulia and I was at a brokerage, so I've heard this. I'm just curious, what your guys' experience has been.
You know what? Change is hard for everyone. So there's always people that are excited and there's people that have opinions. In this case, we know we are asking our agents to give us a lot more data, again, because we know that the new affluent wants to do their own self-research. And so we want to provide them with that data. So our new property page has a lot more data, not just a description and key facts. We're giving all the room metrics, what the flooring type is. And then, as you have here, this was the first page we integrated with local logic. We wanted to give location data. That was important to us. And that's gone over well because our agents for years have been telling us, of course, location. But for many of our clients, we know schools is an important metric for them. In content we've been creating and the analytics behind that. But local logic gave us the ability to provide that information right then and there on the page as you're viewing that property.
And with that, we built in a lot of measurement tools on these pages to follow around customers and figure out what their actual online behaviors are. Because a lot of this is just opinion-based until we figure out how people are interacting on the site and are they clicking on where we thought they would click and what's driving them to these different areas. So we are currently collecting all that information, and it allows us then to make different or either different design choices or stick with what's working.
That's great. So we have about 5-6 minutes of core time left. So we're going to push through a couple sections here. And what I want to focus on is your shift from this view to your new view. And so just for time's sake, I'm just going to show the 3 versions and then let's talk about them holistically. So this was your old view. This is your old search result page.
Yes, absolutely. It focused, like I said, we have great content. It focused on the content, but as you'll go through the other views, what became apparent to us is great content is wonderful when you're looking at the content, but when you're searching in that search phase, you want to see as much information in the way you want to see it. And so, a lot with the advent of places like services like Airbnb and Uber, map search is so key to the search experience. So when we launch the new search, all our views now have a live map with them. And not just that, but as you have up here, they've got the local logic widget integrated there. So we're able to give consumers sort of the lifestyle they're looking for, to be able to search for properties in areas they're looking for. And what's key again is schools. We have school data in all of Canada. So people can, often people are looking to be in a certain catchment. They want to go to a certain school, and our integration, we would not have been able to do that ourselves. So partnering with Local Logic has helped us sort of get that data. We can show schools and we can show the catchment areas, so people can see, well, I am interested in this property and it fits the school or catchment I want to be a part of.
Yeah, and what I found most interesting, and thank you for the plugs, but like I'm actually going to focus on, so this is great and we know this works and people love it, but you did a decision here, which I think is really important. So you've combined the powerful map with a table view. And so can you share some stats, Joe, on what happened when all these views are live. So you guys, so for people who are on the webinar really can't see it, just so you guys can see, this is how the consumer can change views, and they can also hide the map. And then this is where the consumer can set what they care about for lifestyle or for schools, okay? And as they zoom in, they'll see the schools, et cetera. But can you talk a little bit about like which does the consumer prefer, and what are you learning now that you've changed your site, you've added the tracking? What are you learning about this consumer?
Well, just like the listing pages, we wanted to track how people's real world behaviors are. And we know that the new buyers are becoming more and more empowered to self-educate and to research heavily before reaching out. We built a couple different views of this search to provide different people with the type of view they want. We have a map view, which is interactive, very visual. It's slick and smooth to move it around the screen. We have a large tile view, which really focuses on images. It's much more visual. We have a list view, which is kind of a mix of both. You got some visuals and you have a bunch of data points. And then we have this table view, which is no images. And it's more of and the data is structured like a spreadsheet. So when we first started the project, the expectation was interactive map would be the winner. It's easy. It's so fun to kind of move around and search through. You kind of envision people just clicking through their neighborhoods, going in from listings and bouncing back and forth, and having that as the main tool people would be using. So when we started tracking, we were a bit surprised to figure out that map was actually the least viewed screen. Table view, the data view, much like a spreadsheet, was the clear winner for views. So a lot of it could be what stage of the buyer journey are you in, where you'd like to compare, but it seems like that data view is winning. So it's really interesting. We continue to track and track that, but it just shows the importance of what we expect and then what actually happens on our site.
Yeah, I can tell you from both my previous forays into consumer real estate, table views are consistently like the preferred when a consumer is making a decision. At Real Scout, one of my previous companies, we interviewed hundreds of consumers and sat down, and almost every consumer has a Google Sheet or an Excel where they have addresses and they have features and they compare their homes. And it's fascinating. And then this obviously helps them discover and understand the area. But then when it comes to decision making, that table view is really powerful. And Redfin was the creator of the first company in the US to do that. And it was a big boon for them. And many people in the US will say that Redfin's site in the US is the best for search. Again, different than what other sites' goals are. So we're in the final few minutes here of our webinar. I do want to spend a second on sort of like how this boils down to a product, right? And how it's applied. And so we'll talk a little bit here about the Curate app. And I think this is a good example, just for those who are on the call, of how, technology, consumer research, and then your product can combine to create something interesting that is genuine and is not, it's super useful. So can you talk a bit here about Curate?
Yeah, this is a great example of sort of that new affluent research being output into a product. We know that 76% of all buyers found their home on a mobile device. And so it's important to be there, but we all have our apps with listings on there. How do we differentiate? And so Curate is a great example. It's a tool that is available to anyone. You don't have to be a client of Sotheby's International Realty. It allows you to basically use augmented reality, use your smartphone. As you're going through a home, maybe it's empty and you want to envision how will this home look like with my furniture, my style and decor. You can use the app and just put in the furniture you want. It enables our agents to help stage homes for much cheaper. Even if it's a fully furnished home, they can still stage it using the app. And then tied in, really unique to our brand, is we're able to not just help consumers view, help them envision what the home would look like. Say they like a piece of furniture, they see in the app that they've kind of made the home look their own. They could even purchase that furniture directly through another branch of Sotheby's. So it brings a whole bunch of research and data together in a very fun and exciting user experience.
Yeah, I really enjoyed this. And as somebody who's buying a home right now, I'm actually moving from the US to Canada. I'm stoked to play with this, and and it's super useful. It's super useful. So good on you. So look, we went through a lot of stuff. We actually nailed the 30 minutes. So awesome. We're going to go into Q&A. So folks, if anybody has any questions about the luxury consumer, about the new affluent, about how, Sotheby's is thinking about this new affluent. I, for one, learned a lot today. This is a $30 trillion market just in this segment of real estate. They are they're what we call omni-channel. They're not just on the web. They're not just on mobile. They're not just, and they're not, and they actually are still in print, high-end print, quality print. And they care more about experience. Something we didn't get to talk about, which I'm going to save, we'll do here in the Q&A. When we were prepping for the call, we discussed how experience matters, right? So can you tell me what that means? Because everybody thinks about experience like, oh, well, my experience buying a home, right? But like how does this consumer think about experience when it comes to shopping, as we discussed?
For sure. I think we alluded to it. They're used to sort of applying their experience with other consumer luxury brands into how is it buying or selling a home.
Right.
How's that experience? And of course, the realtor is an important part of that experience. But as research has showed, and as we said, there's a lot of self-research and empowerment happening where they do a lot of research before they reach out to the agent. And so for us, we're ensuring that experience that they have is available to them wherever they are, mobile, desktop. And also, we made a massive shift as a company in sort of our product dev to ensure everything we do is put out, age-old term responsive. But we've also integrated aspects such as 3D virtual tours. Sotheby's was the first to officially launch this, beating Zillow and others to the market with 3D Matterport tours, which you can see on our sotheby'srealty.ca site. You can also put on a VR headset. Some of our offices have VR headsets, so you go in and you kind of want to walk through the home. Again, with a luxury consumer, as an example, a new affluent, we have people buying a home and they might not necessarily be able to come visit it. How do we get them to walk through the home? So we've got to develop that experience for them.
And I think the point that I really loved that you shared is that they don't think about this as a real estate experience. Like a buyer doesn't say, this is my real estate shopping experience. They think, this is how I buy things. And so my experience buying things is X. It's easy, it's personalized, it's beautiful. So I'm not comparing my real estate experience to my other real estate experience. I'm comparing my shopping experience to the real estate shopping experience. And I'm saying like, hey, this is not, or it is the same. And that's really what they're comparing us to. So they're comparing us to, their purchase of a Bugatti or their purchase of a Mercedes or their purchase of, a luxury trip and how easy and fun and that experience is, not just the fact of like seeing homes and that whole part. So I thought that was a really cool takeaway. Thinking about, there's some questions coming in right now. So thanks for those folks asking questions. Feel free to throw in some more. So there's a question here, like what keeps you up at night? So when you think about, this industry, you think about your brand. I mean, you guys represent Sotheby's International Realty Canada. So for the whole country of Canada, you are the decision makers for how this brand is presented out along with your executive team, like that's a lot. Like what worries you guys? Like what keeps you up at night?
Mainly operational. There's so much new technology coming into the market. It's flooded, and just figuring out where there's value in a lot of that. You not necessarily want to be first all the time. It's trying to measure where we can provide the most value to our customers and to our agents. I come from technology, so I think it's mandatory that every software states that it's built with AI and machine learning. So it's something that it's prevalent, and trying to figure out where that fits in with our space and where to spend our time and resources on. That's a big concern that we're always weighing.
That's awesome. Cool. And so looking at oh, actually got a question here. Is Local Logic available everywhere? Oh, that's an easy one. Is Local Logic available everywhere? Yes. In the US, it's completely available, and Canada. So we're completely North America available. There's a question here about, so looking in the US, there's brokerages like KW, and what's happening in the US right now, there's like a data war happening in the US. A concrete example, Gary Keller got on stage and talked at a conference in San Diego about what they're doing with transaction data. And they're building models so that they can put the probability of the deal closing based on the agent, the market, the mortgage, the price point. So basically, like if a home's on the market in XYZ, area, and the offer is X% of asking, and this is the bank and this is the agent, this is the percentage chance that they could close. And that just blew my mind, right? You think and then it gave tips to the agent on how to increase their odds of this deal closing. So like, that's an example of this war that's happening in the US. I'm just curious, in Canada, do you guys see this data hunger happening? How do you guys think about this data up north?
Yeah, we are definitely capturing as much information as possible based on transactions, historical data. We've spent a bunch of time last year working on our infrastructure to be able to handle that much data and compare it. I think that also shows the importance of systems like a CRM, where you can track that customer journey and you can look at successes and losses and have everything tracked in one system. So we are definitely prepared and been moving forward with capturing as much information as possible to help kind of make those decisions.
And our goal really is to help our agents. We feel like the realtor is an important aspect in that journey. I think most people with real estate, we realize that buying a home is probably the biggest transaction anyone does. And so we want to use that data to help our agents, help their clients navigate navigate that experience, that process.
Great. I have a good question here. It's just for us. So does Local Logic work for smaller firms too, or US based? Yes, we do. So we do work obviously here in Canada and the US with very large companies. We also work with smaller companies too, anywhere. So you can be a small brokerage in a specific city, and we can work with you. So thank you for the question. So man, I think we covered a lot of great stuff. Again, if anybody has any questions, this is how you can ask them. Otherwise, I'm going to be wrapping here. Thank you so much, Tahan, Joe. I really appreciate. Oh, we have a question coming from somebody. Hold on a second. From Beverly. So Beverly, give me a moment. Getting your question sent in. Oh, that's a great question. There's a question here about protection of data. So how do you guys look at protecting your high-end clients' privacy with, let's say like an example, home gets sold or something like that, and like the photos come down, or like, how do you guys handle those kind of scenarios?
Yeah. Firstly, there are a bunch of local regulations. So as an example, in Ontario, you're not allowed to display sold properties, images, and that stuff. There's been changes in the Ontario market to open up transactional data there. We definitely take that seriously. I think in a world where privacy is mattering more and more, it's important to keep that in mind, especially with the luxury consumer. The other aspect of it is agents own their book of business. It's their clients. So for us as a company, they manage their client data, where we work to help them in that aspect.
Great. Cool. Thank you. Great answer. Any more questions, folks? Feel free to ask them. Shoot them on in. Aaron is fielding them for us. In case my Q&A thing is not working, I'm not seeing questions, just so you know, like after that one from Beverly. So in case there's other questions, feel free to pump them in. Otherwise, we're going to be wrapping. Great. All right. Well, thank you so much, folks. This has been recorded. So you'll get a copy of the recording. If anybody has any questions, please feel free to shoot us a note, connect with Tahan and Joe on LinkedIn. And thank you, everybody, for coming on time and joining us for this webinar. Thank you, Joe. Thank you, Tahan. Really appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Take care, guys. Bye-bye.